Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. We just completed our study in our greater series, Encountering Jesus. We just completed our study of Jesus and the women he meets in John's Gospel. So I thought we'd spend a little time over the course of the next 2 weeks looking at Jesus and his encounters with Peter, the apostle. I picked Peter because we all love Peter. Everyone loves Peter. And anytime we study the Gospels or study 1st and 2nd Peter, and we get the chance to talk about Peter, we all are quite animated when we talk about him because we love him so much. And it's not hard to understand why. He's impulsive, he's very human, but he loves Jesus desperately. And we just get to see him warts and all. He's quite a companionable person. He's such a good older brother to have around. And so I thought we'd spend some time in the Gospels and in the first chapter or two of the book of Acts, talking about Peter and his encounters with Jesus, and then maybe take a little side trip or two to his letters, where he talks about his ongoing relationship with Jesus, even as an old man, and just kind of trace the arc of Peter's encounter with Jesus throughout his lifetime. We meet Peter for the first time. He meets Jesus for the first time in John chapter 1. In the Synoptic Gospels, we have the account of Jesus calling Peter to leave his boat behind and be his disciple. But John, who writes, as we've said a few times in our study, at the end of the first century, is able to fill in the blanks to give us the information that we'd like to have, but we haven't gotten yet. And John gives us the tale, the account of Peter's first meeting with Jesus. Before we read that, I just want us to talk about who Peter is and what he does. Peter lives in the area of Capernaum on the Sea of Galilee, probably in Bethsaida, the village, which is not too far from Capernaum. He is a fisherman. He's in business with his brother Andrew. His name isn't Peter, really, when we meet him. His name is Simon or Simeon. It's a Jewish name, a good Jewish name. Curiously, his brother Andrew has a Greek name. Andreas, Andrew, manly, a manly man. That's Andrew's name. They own a boat, and they are working in partnership with James and John, who also own a boat. Not too many years ago, a boat from the first century, just a normal fishing boat, was uncovered on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. And you can go online and see pictures of these boats. It fits the exact description that we have in the Gospels. And they're pretty good size, 18, 20 feet or more. And that means that Peter and Andrew had a certain level of prosperity. They certainly were not prosperous, but they weren't taking their nets and walking them out into the sea. They were owners of a boat and had a bit of commercial success. Andrew is a disciple of John the Baptist, something that we know in John's Gospel. It is John the Baptist who introduced Jesus to Andrew when Jesus comes to be baptized. Introduces him by saying, "Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world," and basically inviting Andrew and another disciple who seems to be Philip, both of whom, of course, become apostles, to go follow Jesus. And they do. And they spend the day with Jesus. They follow Jesus, and Jesus turns around and says, "What are you looking for?" And they say, "Rabbi, where are you staying?" And Jesus says, "Come and see." And they spend the day with him. The first thing that Andrew does, and maybe we'll spend time with Andrew later on, he's a forgotten hero of the Gospels, is to find his brother Simon and introduce him to Jesus. It says in John chapter 1, verse 40, one of the two who heard John speak and followed him was Andrew, Simon Peter's brother. He found first his own brother Simon and said to him, "We have found the Messiah," which translated means the Christ. He brought him to Jesus. Jesus looked at him and said, "You are Simon, son of John. You shall be called Cephas," actually Kaphes, which translated means Peter. Well, we're not told what Peter thinks about this. We'll talk more about Peter's reaction tomorrow. But it's important for us to see two things. The first thing is that Jesus immediately changes Peter's name. Whether he changes it to the Greek version at this moment, it's unclear. He calls him Kaphes, Petros, rock. He renames him rock. Um, that's kind of a bold thing for Jesus to do, having just met Peter. But Jesus is already laying claim to Peter's affections, Peter's allegiance, Peter's life, if Peter will accept. But it's important for us to remember that when Peter met Jesus for the very first time, he was introduced to him as the Messiah. Tomorrow we're going to be in Luke chapter 5 when Peter actually answers the call and follows Jesus as his disciple. Thank you for joining me for 5 good minutes this day.